Many times when you're buying a home, you have no idea what is contained in that multiple 100-page closing package. I'm Tiffany Weber. I have closed over 5,000 properties as a real estate attorney, and today I'm going to go through the top questions that I get in closing so that you'll know the answers before you close. What is up with this escrow account? I see that I have my principal and interest payment, and then there's this extra money added onto it for a higher payment than the principal and interest. What is that? Do I have to have it? What does it do? Think of it as a forced savings account. This is an account that your lender sets up for you so that the money from your payment set aside for escrow can be used to pay your taxes and your insurance when they come due, and homeowners insurance. So those bills will be forwarded to your lender. That way they can make the payments out of that account. It really can be a good thing so that you are not scrambling when the tax bill comes out for $6,000 plus. There are requirements from lenders that if you have a loan on a piece of real estate that you have to have insurance on the property. So to cancel your insurance or not be timely paying the insurance payment would be a violation of your loan documents and a breach of contract with the lender. Another thing about escrow accounts is that on your closing disclosure, you're going to see a whole section where there's just some extra money being put into this escrow account. And that's because your escrow account can never be at zero. The lender is going to collect a cushion up front. It's usually 3 months worth of taxes, 3 months worth of insurance. But let's say the taxes are going to come due less than 12 months from now, the lender's going to collect a couple extra months of taxes so that you can have the total amount needed for the taxes in the escrow account when the time comes. There is this little line item that's usually included called the aggregate adjustment, and that's if the lender has collected a certain amount for escrow and it goes above the legally allowed limit. The aggregate adjustment is what's given to you as a credit to offset and make sure that the lender doesn't keep too much of your money in establishing that escrow account. What happens if your taxes go up and your escrow account is short? Well, lenders have a couple ways of dealing with this, and that's usually, around the first of the year, you're going to get a notice telling you, we've analyzed your escrow account and we didn't have enough. You have two things you have to do. One, you have to make up the difference in the cushion. So if the cushion has to be $500 and it dips below $500, you're essentially in the negative with the lender. The other thing is that unless they adjust your payment, there will be a shortfall again next year. So the lender will sometimes give you options of, do you want to make this in a lump sum payment or do you want to spread it out over your payment going forward? Another question I get is, when do I make my first payment? And this one is kind of nice, but also a little bit tricky because depending on when you close, you may get a month off, so to speak, from making your principal payment. And right now we're filming this, middle of March. And people who are closing today will not make their first payment until May 1st. Now, this is because the lender is collecting on the closing statement the interest on the loan from today until the end of the month. This is what gets people tripped up, is that interest is paid in arrears. So when you're making your May 1st payment, you're paying the interest for April. If you were making your April 1st payment, it would be kind of all out of whack because it's not a full month's of interest, and it is way less confusing for you to just have a consistent payment every single month rather than making a really weird payment your first month on April 1st and then May 1st going to your regular payment. A month off in quotes because you're still paying for the month in which you close, but you're not going to resume your normal monthly payment until the month after you close. So, whatever that next first of the month is, that's not when you make your payment, it's the next one. The next thing I get asked all the time, almost every closing, and it's a big one, is when do I get the keys? That's everyone's question because you're so excited to move into your house, and in North Carolina, the keys come after the deed is recorded. And there's a couple things that make this true. First, we can't record until all the funds needed for the closing are in our account. So if you have a loan, that means we have to have the lender's money in our trust account. And we also have to have your money, whatever amount that you had to bring to closing, in the trust account. This is rare, but occasionally a seller has to bring funds to closing, and if they do, we also need their money in the trust account and cleared. That's the other thing. This is why attorneys prefer wires if you want to have a same-day funding, because if you bring a check, then we have to have it cleared our account before it's considered good funds. This is under the North Carolina Good Funds Settlement Act. Step 2, Title update. Beginning of the process, we do a title search to make sure that there are no judgments, liens, bankruptcies, any other title issues affecting the property. That happens towards the beginning of the process. That happens shortly after we get the contract. There is some time that passes from when we finish the title search and get the title commitment to the closing day. So we have to do a title update, and it has to come out clear before we can record the deed. Now, if we discover something, the seller gets a judgment against them, well, we've got a problem. The seller has to deliver clear title to the buyer in North Carolina. So we're going to have to make some adjustments to make sure that that judgment gets paid. So in almost all cases, title update is clear, and then we can move to record. So we submit the documents to the county, and a lot of people will say, do you e-record? Just do e-recording, it's instant. Not true. E-recording is just a virtual line, as if you went and stood in line at the Register of Deeds office, and then once the deed has recorded, that finally is when the buyer can get the keys. Now, there are sometimes sellers who are feeling generous, and they are okay with giving possession prior to the deed recording. That is out of the kindness of their hearts and not because of a legal obligation, at least not here in North Carolina. And a bonus tip for the sellers, you don't get your money until the deed has recorded either. So you're not entitled to funds until all of those same steps have happened. Same thing for agents and their commissions. Nobody gets paid until the deed has recorded. So if you're moving to North Carolina, especially the Lake Norman area, we have 3 offices around Lake Norman, Mooresville, Huntersville, and Denver. We would love to see you. I would love to close your property. So send your contract to close at thomasandweber.com, and hopefully I'll see you in my closing room.